everyone. Welcome to the Partnerships Management and Leadership Training Conference. This is a 45-minute session called Stretching the WAP Network Reach, how 800 million of not DOE funds are leveraged and how to boost your future share. So we have Meg Power, who's an advisor to the Community Action Partnership, and Cynthia Zwick, who is Executive Director of Wildfire, Arizona's Community Action Association. So again, I'm Cashin Yu. I'm with the National Community Action Partnership, and myself, as well as Denise Waite, are behind the scenes to help this go smoothly for you. So don't hesitate to reach out to either me or Denise at the chat at any point during the event, and we'll help you troubleshoot. If you get disconnected from the webinar, please rejoin through the VFairs platform. So just a couple of quick technical notes before we jump in. We are recording this session, and it will be made available to all registered attendees for 30 days at the end of the conference. All of you are on mute, which means that you will need to communicate through the Q&A and chat functions. We will be holding questions until the end, but feel free to enter them at any time. And we do have a session evaluation, which will get you a link for that, and we appreciate your input on that. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Meg Power to get us kicked off.
Hello, welcome. I'm working with the Community Action Partnership's Weatherization Leveraging Project, which is technical assistance to help local and statewide and state agencies work on developing partnerships by using all the tools and all the examples that have come before, all the tools available to us, including weatherization money, to do some advocacy and get some partnerships going. And we've invited Cynthia Zwick, the director of Wildfire, the Arizona Association, who has a long, strong record of continuous advocacy and usually, but not as much as she wants, winning advocacy, to talk about how to do it and what to think about for this next generation of potential partnerships. I know many of you are thinking about what you can do that's new and climate friendly and brings equity and energy/environmental justice to our communities. You'll need some partnerships to do it. The lessons that have been learned in developing hundreds of millions of dollars worth of weatherization partnerships are going to be very important. And we hope this project, which is, by the way, searching for a new director, please see the job listings at CAP, can help. Can you put up the slides for us, Cynthia?
I will do that now.
Thanks. So there, that's everything I just said. Can I let's have the next one? There's an annual funding survey that's managed by the National Association for State Community Services Programs, and in partnership now with CAP. CAP's job is to find partnerships and funds that haven't been reported to the state because they're direct with the local agencies or the local associations. And these are the 2018 results. NASCAS was just about finished, ready to publish the 2019 results we got, but they're very similar. So here's the leveraged funding in the program. Of course, you know, LIHEAP is a bigger share of weatherization nationwide than DOE money. And that's the exact number from 2018. It's pretty much the same in 2019. And as far as we know, the plans for 2020 before 2020 got weird were very similar. The leverage funds we particularly focus on in our project are funds that aren't federal funds. And primarily those are the utility programs in the states that utility commissions or legislatures direct into weatherization. And they weren't that far behind nationwide. They weren't that far behind the LIHEAP total for the country. And again, more than 150% as much as the Department of Energy weatherization. And it all added up to 1.1 billion. So as the Biden administration thinks about growing the program with new responsibilities and possibly stimulus money, it's important for them to know, and I think they do know, that they're looking at a $1.1 billion network. Unfortunately, this isn't evenly the case. I mean, there isn't, 1.5 to 1 facility money to weatherization money in many states, nor is the LIHEAP allocation generous in all the states. There's a map. Can we look at the map on the next slide, please? And I didn't count the really pale green states because those states are marked, they have a few $100,000, but not as much as $500,000. Otherwise, there are a lot of you where there is a great opportunity for bigger partnerships or any partnerships with significant funders. We've got the captioning instructions there too. That's okay. We're done with that. Thank you very much. I just don't want you to think that we think that everybody who's listening to this has a great deal of leverage funds. In fact, I got a quick look at who's here, and I see many friends, and many of you are in the position of trying to look for or having the opportunity to look for, I don't know if you're going to try some of these new partnerships. And these are very tough times for weatherization. Of course, programs are stop and start or just plain stop. We know there's leftover money because of COVID. But on the bright side, we have a fair, just climate mitigation, carbon mitigation, climate change policy in this administration. Every department has been instructed to look at every program and see whether they can reach 40% of the resources that are covered by the climate plan. And every department, I think, every domestic department, probably defense, has resources covered by the climate plan and the climate change orders. 40% should go, it says, to disadvantaged communities, communities of color, economic and environmental injustice victims of the past, and low-income communities. We have a network, as you know, that has unique access into those communities. Others may have to scramble to get us to introduce them or to try and introduce themselves. We have utility markets that we're already transforming to make a far more centralized and electrified system for most of our buildings. We have a transportation policy that is electrification of most vehicles by 2035, including the GM and Ford buying into this. And this is a great time to start planning for the kinds of partners we've always had at the utility industry, or completely different new, maybe the transportation departments of your state and local governments. And I mentioned the money that has been slow to spend. This is a great way to soak up some of that money. By this, I mean using the authority that's in the weatherization program to take up to 15% of the program grant and use it, this is not admin money, and use it for planning, advocacy, and to fund the staff you may need at your association or your CAP, and the expertise you may want to hire. And the time to get that money into your budgets to do these kinds of plans and work and advocacy would be now. For the April 1 start state, your states are planning. As I hope you know, the states are required by DOE to consult with the local agencies during the planning period, and most of them have. We got many messages during the last 2 years with the quality improvement plans and the ACSI pressure that DOE has turned into a framework for action and improvement. We've had lots of messages from you all saying that your states were being much more open and cooperative, and greater understanding was abounding as plans were changed and developed for the coming year. For those of you, most of you have July 1 start dates and an April meeting. An April deadline for those plans means you ought to be meeting by next month at least to talk about getting some leveraging money turned into your programs and your advocacy. This doesn't count against the average cost per unit. It is one more excellent investment for states and for you. Next slide. I don't really remember what the next slide is. Is the next one your slide, Cynthia?
Yep.
Good.
Thanks,
You, Cynthia. Cynthia's going to add this for this being advocacy, education, and managing some complicated partnerships and some even more complicated politics in the state of Arizona for the last decade-ish, and has had some remarkable successes. And she's able to explain better than almost anybody how you can come together as community action agencies and other weatherization partners and figure out how you want to design a program, sell a program, and manage a program over years as a major increase to your core programs. Cynthia, take it away, please.
Thanks, Meg, and thanks everybody for participating with us today. I'm really going to talk a little bit about the advocacy that has led us to have the success I think we're seeing in Arizona, which is a success upon which we need to continue to build, frankly. I will tell you, when I entered this position, I started this job in 2003. So as Meg indicated, I've been at this a long time. I was sitting at my desk one day in the first month of employment, and I got a call from the previous director telling me that one of the largest electric utilities in the state was going to file a rate case, and that we should be interveners in that case. I will tell you that I had no idea what she was talking about. I had very little, if any, exposure to the Corporation Commission here. So I was pretty much thrown for a loop, but we did our best. And due to the kindness of all the parties involved, I got my feet wet and our team got their feet wet in this energy advocacy world, which has become one of the key areas in which we continue to be engaged, gratefully engaged. So I want to talk a little bit about why we do what we do. And I think the driver is, and something I'm sure all of you can appreciate and engage with as well, is that we are the voice for low-income families, low-income customers before the Corporation Commission and within the utility companies themselves. I think it's fair to say, and perhaps that's less so now, I would hope that it's less so now, but if we're not at the table, the issues that are facing the low-income customers really don't get heard and don't get the attention that we think they should get. I don't think they get all the attention we think they should get now, but I think there may be even less of that to be provided. So we focus really solely on that population. We have, in Arizona, we have 5 major regulated utilities, which you can see here. Arizona Public Service is one of the largest. That is the one where I was trained in the interventions. Southwest Gas, Tucson Electric Power, Unisource Gas, and Unisource Electric are the other major regulated companies. Tucson Electric Power, Unisource is all really essentially the same company, but managed independently. There is another major utility electric company here, which is Salt River Project, and they have, like APS, about 1 million customers, but they are not regulated by the commission. In fact, rather, they're a quasi-state entity, so they are governed by a board of directors. And we do participate in their rate proceedings as well, but the process is a little bit different in that respect. We do appear before them. They do hold public meetings, and so we are engaged pretty actively with that company. There are a number of electric co-ops in the state serving primarily the more rural communities. There are many regional and local water companies. We do administer some water programs here in Arizona as well. And again, as I said, our real focus is that if we were not present, we don't believe there would be a voice for the customers, and they would be neglected or just completely overlooked in the process of rate setting, weatherization funding, and bill assistance support. So the way we approach this, and I know this is probably different in every state, but we have really worked hard on the relationships that we have, both internal to the companies and external to the companies. So we work pretty closely with utility staff, have gotten to know many of them, and have gotten to know them pretty well. I say that, and I also say we never take those relationships for granted and never presume that a relationship we have will continue along the same path as we would like it to always. We always also get to know the other parties in the various cases with which we're engaged. Many of them have issues that we do not really align with or get involved with, but we do try to understand their positions. We work closely with the staff of the Arizona Corporation Commission and with the commissioners themselves. We have 5 commissioners here in Arizona that they're statewide elected seats. And so we work with them on an ongoing basis to really trying to develop relationships, but also really to share what the focus is for low income customers and why it's important that they understand and really care about that. And then we also work really closely with the staff of RUCO, which is our residential utility consumer office. They can be pretty influential in these cases and are definitely one of the key players in anything that appears before the commission. So we work closely with them as well. Again, we just do our best to learn as much as we can about all the factors that enter into discussions when it comes to rates, assistance, and the weatherization program, but our focus always remains on the low-income customers. The way we got into this sort of area has been that in the early 70s and early 80s, APS was seeking a rate increase that members of our board felt was just too high and really going to have a negative impact on the customers that they were serving as community action agency directors. And so they decided at the time to intervene in that case, and we have been engaged in those interventions ever since. When I started, we managed a small bill assistance program with APS, and we managed a small weatherization program. And when I say that, it really was a couple of organizations in the community that APS served. And the funding level was about $250,000 for bill assistance and about $500,000 for weatherization at the time. And it was the only program, the only bill assistance program and the only weatherization program for many years in Arizona, separate from the weatherization funded by DOE. In 2008, we began the first warm weather fuel fund in the country to really focus on the impact that heat had on our communities. And we're able to get that off the ground with some seed funding through an El Paso gas pipeline settlement that brought $43 million to the state, but set aside $3 million for low-income customers. And we advocated with the Department of Economic Security to use that money to support the start of this Home Energy Assistance Fund rather than putting it out as LIHEAP essentially, which would have expended all those funds in about 6 months. So I'll tell you a little bit more about how we've grown those funds in a second. I think one of the things I also want to share is that we fight hard for the low-income customers, but we also always want to keep in mind the other issues that are presenting and as I said, understand them. So we try to maintain a balanced approach to our advocacy. But again, when push comes to shove, we have one customer group that we are most concerned about. And so we are walking kind of on two sides of a fairly fine line in that we advocate strongly and aggressively for those customers. And at the same time, we're working in partnership with the utilities rather, and the administration of those funds. So we're very careful about both of those roles. So we have, as I said, we have relationships with the various utility partners. We have partnerships with 32 providers throughout the state of Arizona in all of the utility territories. And that includes the 11 community action agencies, which we support and work with every day. We have relationships within the staff of the utility, as I mentioned, which start at the top with the CEOs. We have good connections there, and goes throughout the utility to the customer service folks and the folks in the energy efficiency departments, which is where the focus is for the weatherization program. We also work really closely with other warm weather utility partners in advocating for LIHEAP funding at the federal level. And we rely a lot on other advocates in the community here locally, but also nationally, groups like NCAF and MEG Power, groups like the National Consumer Law Center, who have a lot of expertise in these areas, in an effort to ensure that when we need help with expertise, we know where to go and we maximize those relationships. And then we also think it's really important, as community action agencies, I know you appreciate, that we keep in close contact with the customers we're serving. The last thing that I want to do is be putting forth a proposal for a policy or a proposal for a program that is not going to benefit the customers that we're there to advocate on behalf of. So we work closely with those customers. And I think it's fair to say that when we can, we encourage those customers to show up at a commission hearing. A lot of that now is obviously happening remotely, which makes that a bit easier, because the stories that they tell have much more impact than any of the stories that I tell. A little bit about what we've accomplished. So I mentioned earlier that we started with about $250,000 in bill assistance funding and about $500,000 in weatherization programs. And it was one company that really had those programs. All of the major utilities now and some of the smaller co-ops now have bill assistance programs and weatherization programs. I think the bill assistance funding that we've been able to leverage and provide for, exclusive of discount rates, comes to about $7 million from a bill assistance perspective, and we're close to $12 million from a weatherization perspective now. So we've seen quite a bit of increased activity. We did see, I indicated an introduction of a new weatherization program, but several of the utilities, as I mentioned, really started new programs over the course of the last 20 or so years, which we're grateful for. All of the utilities also offer a discount program. The discounts vary according to, depending on the different utility companies. But for example, the APS program that I mentioned, or the company that I mentioned, has funding available up to, at this point, about $44 million for discount programs. So one of the activities we work hard on is getting people to really enroll in those discounts. We also had some engagement early on with utility companies that were sending their customers to payday lenders, auto title lenders, check cashers to make payments, and had some success in shutting that practice down here in Arizona. So we're pretty proud of that. And then in the last APS case, we were part of a discussion to introduce a community solar program that would benefit low-income households. We need to do more work on that. The structure of it is not what we would necessarily have designed, but it's making progress, and it is introducing solar into the communities that in many respects have not seen that in the past. So who do we engage in this process, and who should be engaged in these processes? You should be. We should all be really thinking about how we can plug into these programs and plug into this advocacy work. Your board members are key to this. They probably have good connections in the utility companies and definitely within the community itself, and connected to the customers that we're advocating on behalf of. Your members are essential. If you're a state association, the boards and the customers, again, we think are crucial. So I want to thank you for that. And we're happy to take any questions or answer any, respond to any concerns, anything that you might have at this point. We're happy to talk more about. I think I'm turning it over to Denise for the help with that. Is that correct?
We don't have any waiting questions so far.
I do.
Okay.
Hi, Cynthia. Thanks for that. Would you talk a little bit about what the issues are now coming in the utility commissions, in addition to community solar, which is, if you'd like to talk about that some more, that would be great also. I hope everybody here saw our announcement that there is a funding and technical assistance available through CAP Solar to community action agencies that want to own or participate in community solar in the 17 states where it's allowed. If you'd like to talk about that, great, but also what you see coming in these proceedings regarding management of load instead of installing insulation and other issues that are going to be of interest to warm weather states.
Yeah, well, really to any state. I think, so what we're seeing is much more of a focus on the return on investment that the programs provide, the weatherization program provides in particular. And the companies have gotten out here have gotten much more involved in the design of the weatherization program. So while the funds are used to leverage with the Department of Energy money and the LIHEAP money that's available, they have allowed some flexibility in some of the areas. As an example, some of them will allow for the purchase of an air conditioning unit, for example, or the replacement of an air conditioning unit. And some of the funding that we make available does so as well. I think there's also a lot of focus just in a general sense around affordability, and we're fighting hard for more affordable rates in rate cases now, and not just more discounts and more bill assistance, but really to get people to a place where they can afford the rates that they're required to pay, and have a tiered rate program that we've introduced into the APS case. We still fight with some of the commissioners, and as you mentioned, Meg, we're a really conservative state, even though we're starting to see some shift in sort of from a political perspective, but we're still pretty conservative, and the elected officials are still pretty conservative here. So there's still a lot of questioning around the socialization of costs for low-income programs, including weatherization, and whether those costs should be borne by the full customer base. We push hard for not only rate-based programming, but also shareholder-funded programming where we can, and have had some success with that. I think really what's capturing a lot of attention and kind of distracting from some of the other issues, though, at the moment is the long-term utility disconnect moratoriums that have been put in place here in Arizona, for which we have great gratitude. We're very grateful for them, but at the same time, we're now seeing those end, and customers really beginning to struggle with significant debt as they strive to sort of pay that back. So we've been working hard to have long-term payment opportunities in place. We came to agreement that we should have an 8-month payment process in place at least. We would have liked a little bit longer. We were fighting for some arrearage forgiveness on some of those programs, which we did not succeed in realizing. But we're really working to ensure that customers that have come through the crisis or are still dealing with it don't get disconnected and don't have to pay exorbitant amounts in order to get caught up. So we did have some success with 2 of the large electric companies providing credits on accounts to help sort of pay down the discount program enrollees, and then add them into a bill discount program. But we are seeing a bigger investment in weatherization now, which we think is a positive thing. And we think it's due in large part to the success of the agencies with which we work closely, and to the great work that they're doing in both from an advocacy perspective, and then from just an execution perspective. We are still fighting for additional money, and I think capacity is always a problem out here, the ability to serve as many households as we would like. But the crews that are in place are really phenomenal. was a very long answer to your question.
That's a helpful answer. I want to put in a little plug for some of our CAP materials. Many of you are interested in dealing with the shutoffs and the debt that's rolling over people at the moment. And we have a bunch of material and a fairly long training by the National Consumer Law Center, a great national partner Cynthia mentioned, is on our website. And get in touch with us about finding what it is that you need to give you some ideas for your advocacy about ways to manage these arrears, what Cynthia was trying to do in Arizona, giving it both a long time and arrearage forgiveness. Maybe some of our materials can help you make the case. Can I ask you, Cynthia, how paying for the staff time and this investment that the association's making? It's tough for agencies and for associations.
It is, so we are fortunate enough, because of the Home Energy Assistance Fund that we administer, receive some admin support from those utilities that we manage the programs on behalf of. We also have some private foundation money that we've applied for and received that allows us to do some of this advocacy work as well. That said, I don't think these programs have to be expensive from that. I don't think you have to spend a lot of money on them to be effective, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I think advocacy can take place really every day, just through the conversations that you have with utility staff, with different elected officials that may be on your boards or that may have influence with other utility representatives or elected officials. I think the media is also a really great opportunity for sharing your story and for advocating on behalf of customers. I think probably the hardest part is just getting up to speed on all of the activity that's occurring in your state. And I think that's a great place where, some of the advocates, there may be other advocates outside the Community Action Network that are also doing great work that could be helpful. We work pretty closely here with SWEEP, which is the Southwest Energy Efficiency Project. We also work really closely on consumer issues with the PIRG, the Arizona PIRG organization. And there are other Sierra Club, Western Resource Advocates. So I don't know what they all are across the country, but I know that there are really active organizations that could be helpful and lend expertise and lend capacity as well. Vote Solar is coming on strong in the energy justice arena and is a new partner of ours as well. So I think there are a lot of ways to really sort of reach out and make the case in subtle ways sometimes, or in louder ways, depending on how far you want to take it and how far you want to go.
I think it's just the groups you listed just now make an important point, which is that for decades, the major green groups in the country really were not aware or very caring about low-income issues, with a few very notable exceptions. Those weren't their peeps. And both the lessons of defeat when they tried to enact a national carbon tax 10 years ago, and the increasing spotlight on inequality, injustice, and frankly, I think the political power of those who've been treated unjustly has made these groups far more sensitive. They've recruited at the national level, young, dedicated, interested people, and CAPS, in a sense, are an introduction or a gateway to the population they have now come to care about more. And certainly the administration's new policy, new for the national government, of insisting on a large share of resources and equity tests in new programs, or old programs, is going to push those groups even further into our friendship circle. So for those of you in other states that have not had the loving relationships you may have wished for with some of the mainstream environmental groups, try again. That may be good partners. I did want to say something. You've had brilliant expert staff working under you on these advocacy initiatives over the years. I've observed only the smartest people. So I'm glad that utility management money is now paying for it. For most people, most groups that want to use weatherization, leveraging money, once you get it going right, your utility money can take over, your management money can take over. Utilities end up paying for whatever it is you choose to advocate on their programs. I did want to show this, I think a last slide that you have that is how to see some resources about getting money if you're feeling your association should have some, and about alternatives to this way of organizing the advocacy. Do you have one more slide there?
Could you pull the slide up?
If you think so, yeah.
Tell me which
After
one
that.
you want.
That one. So this is, I was saying, I think the strongest model, but that one's fine. We'll start there.
Okay.
What Cynthia's doing with wildfire is the same kind of work that was done in almost every dark green state on that map back at the beginning. This deck will be available afterwards. The history of the big programs is a state CAP association or a state weatherization association or a group formed for the purpose change statewide policy on utility regulation, either through regulation directly at the commissions or through legislatures, and may have changed the policy for different state programs like housing, health, and of course, energy systems. It's not the only model. There are great advantages to changing your policy framework. Many, many community action agencies today have some very creative weatherization related partnerships going on. There are, for several years now, Eastern Missouri's had a remarkable demonstration with a hospital chain and a set of rehab home health care providers in which the weatherization work in the homes of people with respiratory conditions are corrected along with weatherization and by using some intense healthy homes measures. Tennessee Valley Authority did a big demonstration of healthy homes and home repair in Knoxville. That also happens statewide with the association in North Carolina, but I'll give you some local CAP examples. There are a series of, I forgot to list them all on here, but in Western Maine and New Hampshire, there have been a series of demonstrations of important healthy homes techniques and some things that may eventually persuade the insurers or the healthcare systems that funded them to come back and make it a routine policy. Not there yet. That's the holy grail we're looking for. There are groups of CAPs have organized within their utility service areas for a large part of Missouri, for example, and have a set of direct contracts to do weatherization. They organized it on a regional basis or utility basis. Southern California, I saw Christine's here. You have a remarkable organization that has advocacy going on both at the California Air Resources Board and the California Regulatory Commission, which is a different name there. Minnesota's done something really interesting this past year, but just as the pandemic started, the state gave grants, pilot grants to every agency to do some leveraging. Looking forward to seeing what the ideas were, even if they didn't get a chance to carry them out. And advocacy at the statewide level with your statewide partners and partners in other groups, as well as your CAP partners, can have the long-term framework impact. Sometimes associations, the boards of associations are reluctant to pile on more responsibilities, staff. Sometimes it's hard when the opportunities are with some utilities, but not the entire statewide group of utilities. the successes all come from associations getting over that and working together in a sustained way for several periods. So last slide, which you can show that, download, you guys can download it later, is some links to our online resources, but please get in touch. I'm a consultant to the project, which has reopened or continued to open a search process that got interrupted by events. But we can help you find things. We can help work you through things and sort of serve as staff as you get going on ideas. Look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. That's all I've got.
Okay, I don't
Thanks.
see any. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't see any questions. So last chance, if anyone wants to type something in.
It's great to have you all come hear this.
Exactly. So any last thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
Cynthia?
I would just say thank you for, first of all, for participating today, but also just for those of you who are sort of new to this, start small and just keep moving forward. And for those who have had some more experience, just keep pushing. I think, you know, we can't take for granted the success that we've had. And I think there's just so much more to be done. So I'm happy to help in any way that I can. And I just really appreciate the work that all of you are doing or will be doing shortly. Thanks. And thanks to Meg, who's just amazing and an amazing resource. Please take advantage of what she has to make available to all of you, because it's without compare.
Thanks. You're my heroine and my model here. So, and I'm the person, as you can tell by the background, who gets into the weeds with you on what you're doing on this. Thank you. Everybody have a great conference.
Yeah.
Great. We'll see you at the next session. Do make sure that you take a look at the evaluation link that was just put into the chat and let us know what you thought about this session and how we can improve.
Thanks.
Super. Thanks, everyone.